Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be with you tonight, yet another Sunday evening. Just so that you guys know, we're doing these until the end of November for 2019. I am taking December off. Merry Christmas to me and to you. And then we will resume in January with a Come Follow Me series. I'm going to make that announcement every week for the next month so that we get that out to everybody. And for tonight, our topic is going to be conference takeaways. Now, when I say conference, I generally do mean single adult conferences. But if you want to, talk about things you got from a general conference or a state conference or a ward conference or whatever conference, that's totally cool with me. Just whatever you feel inspired to talk about tonight. So for tonight, I want to talk a little bit about single adult conferences and what goes into them on the back end. And then I want to talk to you about, I want to get your feedback, if you will, on just different takeaways that you've gotten from the different conferences you've been in. So this year I've been involved with heading up with a committee, heading up a committee for two different conferences, one in Charleston, South Carolina in April, and one in August in Atlanta. And I've been doing these every year, or been involved somehow for the last at least 5 years in heading up, the conferences. And I've done them previous to that, being involved with a committee or whatever, but heading them up, different thing. Anyway, so on the back end, it takes generally for us about a year to plan them. We do meet monthly to go through different things. Some months we meet twice a month as a committee. We do have a committee that is formed, and we work on trying to make sure that, we have what I want to call a great experience for everybody. More than just a conference. I want everybody to be able to have a great experience. And because we're a vast age range of 31, let's just say till you no longer on earth, of anybody who is single, never married, divorced, widowed, whatever, right? We have a challenge in trying to meet a lot of needs. And generally speaking, we don't see too many people at our conferences over the age of 70. There'll be a couple of them here and there. But generally speaking, there are not too many people that will attend a conference over the age of 70. Not to say that there aren't. And the majority of those will be men. I will just tell you now. So we try to aim for this 40-year range, if you will, between 30 and 70. And to say there's a big difference in that would be an understatement. Am I right? Huge, right? So the general format for most conferences is a dance on Friday night, Saturday morning workshop, speakers, keynote speaker, that kind of thing, meals during the day, free time Saturday afternoon, another dinner and dance Saturday night, and then Sunday morning meeting, whether it be a sacrament meeting, a testimony meeting, or whatever. That is a general format. Now, my degree is recreation management. So I'm an event planner. That is what I have learned to do by profession. And so it's fun for me to be able to go in to do this. But what I like to do is tweak that a little bit. And if you've ever been to a conference that I head up, some of those tweaks. So we generally will start Thursday night with a temple trip. And we'll do all day Friday of play, socializing, icebreakers, getting to know you, whatever. So that by Friday night, we aren't awkward going into a dance not knowing anybody. I hate going into, that's a strong word. I prefer not to go into a Friday night dance not knowing a soul. So if I'm going to be attending a conference and the very first thing I walk into is a dance and I don't know anybody, that's going to feel a little awkward. And I've experienced those before. Now I know most of the people in the Southeast, so that doesn't happen to me anymore. But I remember when I first started going, when I was single, when I lived out in Utah, it was that way, big time. I just walk into a room, few hundred people, pay to go in, and I didn't know a soul. So that's a challenge. And I've experienced that even in Georgia when I moved back to Georgia in 2012, trying to walk into a dance or walk into any type of an event by myself and not know anybody. So generally, I do advise that people come with a friend so that you know somebody. You have a wing person, and then also that we have different events or icebreakers or whatever beforehand. So then people are getting to know each other during the day. So then that Friday night dance is not so awkward. I do like doing meals also around that because I think that's very helpful. And then Saturday morning we do, instead of like breakouts, we've been just doing all in one big room, but we may go back to breakouts at some point. Next year we're going to have a general authority coming, so we'll probably just be all in one big room. So for Atlanta anyway, we're having a general authority coming. So that's going to be a little different. The format we're going to be more on their time frame for Saturday morning, and when they can do it, and that type of thing. And then the meals, and then during the Saturday free time, because we do ours at a resort, we do ours generally at Lake Lanier, and we didn't always do that. I got some feedback when we did it at a church building for a couple of years, and somebody had said, hey, I'd rather not pay to go to a church building once a year when we're at a church building once a month doing a dance. Why do I have to pay? So and that was a very valid point. And so we've been able to work out a deal with Lake Lanier to be able to do a conference there, and it's been fabulous. And so then they provide a lot of the amenities and the free time activities and whatever, which makes it way easier for us. They take care of a lot of the catering, or we have other caterers come in, so that takes care of the food. We're not in the kitchen all the time. I love that, right? So and then we hire DJs. We want to really just try to make it more fun and have people have more opportunities for different things for all the different age ranges. Sunday morning, we generally will do some form of a testimony meeting. This year, I felt so inclined to do one around music. So everybody would share in less than a minute a hymn that has touched them at some point in their life and a story behind it. And then we'd sing a verse of the hymn that they chose, in any of the verses, but just one verse. And that worked out fabulous. So anyway, so different things has worked. When we did Charleston, we were having our events at different locations, like at the aircraft carrier or at the aquarium or whatever, different things around Charleston to do. Our Sunday morning plans were a total flop because the doors weren't open. But what happened was even better. But I can tell you, if we had planned that ahead of time and advertised it that way, I cannot tell you the number of complaints we would have gotten. If I had told people they were sitting on concrete for Sunday morning during sacrament meeting, they'd have been like, what? No, I'm not doing that, But for it to be the last minute like it was, and for it to be planned out the way that it was. And it's really amazing to me how the Lord's hand is in so many things in planning these conferences. And I've really enjoyed it. I love working with my committee. They're just fabulous, fabulous people. And just awesome. I mean, we work really well together, and it's just been a great experience. All right, so with that, some of the background of kind of what goes into these. If you haven't been, you kind of know. And if you have, then that's awesome. So I want to turn some time over to you guys. Anybody want to unmute and just kind of give me some of your takeaways? First of all, I want to know what conference you're talking about, which part of the event you're talking about, and then what was your takeaway with that? Who wants to go first? Come on. I want to hear crickets. All right, Brian Poole. Let's go. What you got?
Let's say again, just remind me, what part of the conference I liked, or what?
Any of it. Any of your takeaways from any conference, yeah.
Went to the Med Singles conference in DC recently, and they had dinner groups. Hold on just a minute. They had dinner groups Friday night before the first dance, and they assigned us to it. I don't know how they picked what assignments, but it was pretty good for getting to know people before the first dance.
Beautiful idea. Let me take notes.
There was a group of like, I think we were a group of 8, and you could choose whether you wanted a $1 sign restaurant, $2 sign, and there was price categories. So you could tell them what price category restaurant you wanted to go to, and when you registered, and then they figured out based on people's price category choices. And I don't know if they chose by age or something like that too, but they put us in our groups, and they had one person in charge, and they told us who the name on the reservation was, and we just got an email saying, this restaurant, this time, here's your reservation name. And we all went and sat down and got to know each other. So
Now, did you find that you were all in the same age category?
well, it was a mid-singles conference, so
Yeah, but
generally yes.
right. I mean, like because they still. I mean, there's still a big difference between 31 and 45. So that's why I'm asking if you were still kind of grouped together, or is it just anybody?
I don't know. I didn't really ask ages, but
Okay.
It definitely took the 30-year-olds away from the 60 and 70-year-olds. So
Yeah, that's true.
it was a mid-singles conference. So I don't know that people really asked ages. They were more interested in what all the casual stuff. What do you do, and trying to figure out what to eat and seeing what people eat and
Yeah.
what did you get and stuff like that. And it was just more kind of casual conversation. It was good.
Did you feel like that was helpful before the dance?
Yes, because I didn't know. I didn't know for sure if I would know anybody up there. I knew people up there, but I didn't know where I would meet up with them, or if I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know very many people at all. So
Awesome. Fabulous. All right. Thanks for sharing that. That's a great idea. All right. Anybody else want to unmute? Kelly, I see that you're unmuted.
Okay, I went to Nauvoo 2 weeks ago, and first of all, as far as the Saturday morning, instead of a breakout or everybody all at once, we did have everybody all together for our keynote speakers, but it was in smaller groups, so we had discussions. So we all got to see everybody, which was different than last year at Nauvoo. You had to choose between one or the other. So I thought that was kind of nice to do in smaller groups. But also, and I had another thought about that. Well, Philly, I'm older than mid singles, so I lose my train of thought pretty easily. I was so involved in what Brian was saying that I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
No, one I don't know how to Nauvoo. I have to see who's on here today. But let's see. Yeah. Anyway, last year in Charleston, Chrissy Kane spoke, about the 8-second hug, 8-second hug today, and oxytocin being the hug drug.
Right.
And so there was this, and she was in Nauvoo, and she spoke quite a bit about things. Oh, I should have taken notes. I didn't look to see what tonight was about, or so maybe I'll have to gather some thoughts and get it back to you. How about I do that? Let me do that. Let everybody else have a turn, and then I'll get back to you.
All right. Awesome. All right. Anybody else want to unmute? And hey, Jennifer.
Hey, I just years ago when Kathy Shealy and I met, we met because of a scavenger hunt that was being put on. It was a Richmond conference. She drove down for it, and we met some of the coolest people at that conference because we just were able to pile in cars, and that was kind of the plan. We had a certain number of car drivers, and the plan was to go out and take pictures in certain situations. Like one of them was like if the red light is, or if the hot and ready now is on at Dunkin' Donuts, take a picture of your group in front of it, go to a Chinese place and get a menu, something like that. It gives you something to do and work together on a common goal. But when you're driving from place to place, you're actually getting to know people on a fairly intimate level, because only about 5 people can fit in a car.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just found that to be a really kind of cool way to do that. And then the next morning we had like a round robin games. And so everybody, when they came in, there was like a dot on their name badge. And depending on what color dot you had, you were assigned to a certain group. And sometimes that works well and sometimes it doesn't. But the games just happen to ease that pressure enough that people were really coming together. So we did like Pictionary or Win, Lose, or Draw, and Two Truths and a Lie, and just some really fun get to know you games.
Okay.
And so that worked really well. I mean, like I said, I ended up with a fantastic friend out of that. I mean, Kathy and I have been hanging out now for about 4.5 years. So, you know, it definitely worked. And then another one that I really liked was in Maryland, just back in July. They had rented, there's a big farmhouse up there that they had, and they just did like a dinner and like a, what is it, impromptu? Improv. They did an improv group came in, but there was other things to do for people like myself that are not crazy about improv. There was, you know, there was a playground that you could hang out with and talk to people on, or cornhole or whatever. And so it was just kind of a very relaxing way to start the whole conference, so that you could have that, you know, ability to make friends. And I actually got invited before that out to eat with some of the locals. And, you know, it's one of the benefits of being in the group for a really long time. You have tons of friends in the group. So, but just little ideas like that can kind of almost assign you out of your comfort zone, so that you're not always hanging out. I mean, because here's the deal. If I show up at an activity and Paula's there, I'm going to be hanging out with Paula. I don't care what color my little thing is, I'm going to be hanging out with Paula. So, you know, I think that anytime we can kind of get away from people being able to do that and do it in a really fun way, there's so much benefit from that. Just my 2 cents worth.
Oh, no, I totally get that, because I'm that way. I'm drawn to people. I go into a room, I'm looking for people I know. So yeah, because that's comfortable. And especially when you're going into something that you're feeling kind of nervous about or anxious about or whatever, it does help to be able to do that. All right, so let's see. Anybody else want to share any takeaways from conferences this year? Now, we're waiting for people to unmute or interrupt me or whatever to tell me that you want to share. Jennifer, wasn't that where you met Jonathan?
That might have been the highlight of that conference. Who's keeping track? Yes, we met the first night, and we played on the playground, and they had a picture booth, and we ended up leaving and going playing bowling, just because that's what we both enjoy doing. So yeah,
Playing with a ball with 3 holes in it. There you go. A heavy one at that.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. Oh, great. All right, Kelly, did you have something else you wanted to talk about?
Well, I was looking at my stuff and it kicked me off of the meeting, so I still need to finish looking at my
No
stuff.
problem. I saw that you'd unmuted.
The rest of what Jennifer said first, so
Oh, good. So while we're waiting for others to come in and share, I will tell you a lot of people have kind of an idea in their head, or maybe from other people, that conferences or single adult events are there to meet the one. And well, some people do, like Jennifer and Jonathan. That is not the norm. Okay. I've been single for 12 years, and I've attended a lot of conferences in Utah and in the Southeast. And I will tell you, the ones in the Southeast for me are better. Maybe I'm a little biased, But I think it was just because I didn't grow up in Utah, and when I spent that 2.5 years there, I felt kind of like an outsider. Excuse me. Sorry. I felt kind of like an outsider
Bless you.
coming in. Oh, thanks. um, like, here somebody comes in to one of our events in Georgia, we're going to know they're new. We're going to go up and talk to them. We're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to try to engage in conversation. Let's just say there's so many people there, they don't know who's new and who's not. So that typically doesn't happen. Now, with that said, I do have a couple of really cool girlfriends that I met there, and we hung out at some of the dances sometimes. But as far as meeting a man, that did not happen generally. So it just varies, and I will tell you, if you will go with the idea and with the mindset of giving and what can you take to these conferences, what can you share, who can you help, who can you share your story with that may inspire them, that type of thing, it'll be a lot better for you than if you go with the expectation of meeting the one and then you leave without doing it. It is way better to go with just the expectation of participating with everything and making friends and just making the most of this experience. I'm not saying that I haven't met really good men at conferences, because I have. It's just, and even at single adult dances or whatever. But to go there with the idea that's the purpose of you going for, you will, most of the time, you're going to leave disappointed. I won't say that every time, but most of the time you may leave disappointed. So a lot of times it's better if you do that. I've also heard of people that will say, I did that for a couple of years and I never met anybody, so I'm not going to go back. And to them, I kind of smile, because, I've been doing this for 12 years. Long time, people. Next, we're going on 13. And I'm telling you that if you will be consistent and show the Lord what you're willing to do, if it is your goal to find the person that you need to marry, or what you feel inspired to marry, or whatever your terminology is, if you will not give up, but if you will keep going and give it your best shot and go with the best attitude of being kind to others and in giving and in helping out and serving and meeting people and making friends and whatever, because there was one woman a couple of years ago at one of the conference workshops who said, you may not be interested in the woman that you're talking to, but that woman may have a friend that you would be. So don't burn your bridges because, she may be the bridge to your person, or to, whomever that it is that you need to meet. And it can be that way with women and with men. So, just be mindful of that, and just know that when somebody asks for a dance, they're not asking you to, they're not proposing a marriage. They are just asking for a dance. Most of the time, they're not even asking you out. They're just asking for a couple of minutes of your time to, dance through a song. So, because I know of men that will just go around and make sure that women dance so that they have an opportunity. And there are women that will just go out and just play and have fun and do whatever, right? So make the most of it and participate. There are people too, though, that will say, well, this part of the conference just isn't my thing. Say the workshops or the dance or whatever, not my thing. But it might be the thing of the person that you need to meet. And so, or a friend of a friend that you need to meet, whatever. And if you're not fully participating, you will not get out of it all that you were meant to get out of that. I do know sometimes peer pressure can still happen at our age. For instance, in Atlanta, I got on a boat and went tubing for the first time in my life a month before I turned 52. So Yeah,
Hey guys, he loved it too.
I
I was her
totally do.
roommate. She loved it.
Totally do.
I was just laughing about how old you were before you ever decided to try it.
I know, right? No, it was so much fun, but I wouldn't have done that without that peer pressure. So, actually, it was just a man that said, "Hey, you want to go tubing with me?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's go tubing." So I was like, "Hey, we're out there and having fun," and yeah, it was awesome. But not something I would have done on my own. I wouldn't have signed up for that. Otherwise, my friends were hearing me say, "I'm not doing that." So
Something about,
anyway,
well,
so yeah.
sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Kelly, please.
Well, I'm just talking about, like somebody asking you to dance, and several things you said, being nice, and maybe you're talking to somebody who's not your person, but you're watching how you interact with everybody. I mean, we all have to remember too that all of our person. Sorry to get too religious on us, but Jesus is always watching how we treat his children. And I mean, and I've seen so many women, and I mean, men are usually not rude. If an old lady like me asks a 35-year-old to dance, he's not rude, but he does give me this weird look, usually. But I've seen women just be rude to older men, like, "When do you think I want to dance with you?" Just and I don't know. I know that it turns me off. Just I try really hard not to judge. Maybe her feet hurt, or whatever. But we just need to remember. You mentioned earlier to be kind. I mean, and I mean, and if the reason being kind to begin with is just because everybody's watching you or whatever, then do it. But hopefully we'll eventually get to the point where we're just going to be kind because that's what feels good. And that's what gives us, the chemical releases or whatever that make us feel good. And I've really been trying to do that a lot. And I mentioned a second ago, the Nauvoo talk, Kevin Hinckley, he's I don't know if he's a psychiatrist or psychologist there in Dallas, but he was there and he gave a talk about oxytocin, the hug drug. And he said that, that it releases, or that it lowers your blood pressure and, all these wonderful things. But just, and he talked about the difference between being kind and being nice. And he said, for example, he was standing up talking in a meeting, and a guy came up to him afterwards and said, "Hey, dude, your fly's down." And that wasn't maybe the nicest thing to say, but because it, spurred him some embarrassment. But if the guy was going to try to be nice, then he probably would have not mentioned something so uncomfortable. And so he just really pointed out the difference between a lot of us are just overly nice, and it doesn't do us good. And it wears on you. It wears on you when you just try to. But if you're being kind, it's food for thought. To look at the difference, and just I've noticed just going around and looking at people who maybe just need a smile, a hi, or whatever. And I mean, especially at those conferences. And after Nauvoo conference, I went on my Facebook and I was accepting friend requests and friending people that I had met so we could stay in touch. And I friended this one older gentleman, and he immediately was, messaging me, "Hey, how are you doing? What's going on?" And I'm going, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But then I thought, no, that's not right. I mean, I just need to, be upfront with him that and he asked me, he gave me his phone number. You want to text, something? I'm sorry, honestly, I really don't have time right now, but thank you for asking. So, I mean, it's easy to let people know you're not interested without being ugly or ghosting them or avoiding them or all these, juvenile things that people do.
Right. I agree. I agree. And you never know, that person coming up to talk to you might be somebody's wing person that, that they're checking you out for them. You know, you just never know. So how you are to other people matters. I know a few of my friends, I'll say, well, they're off my referral list, or they're on my referral list, whatever, right? I've got people all the time. Paula, do you know this person? And do you think they'd be a good person for me to go out with? And that's generally the only questions I'll ask. Like, I won't try to give somebody else their number or whatever. Um, but but people know if you've done something that I'm aware of that may be, let's say, unkind or something to that effect, then I won't tell people what they did. I'll just go, well, they're not somebody I generally would refer. And that's about what I'll say. You can definitely get to know them. I'm not going to say yes or no. Oh, no, don't do that. I'm not going to do that. I will just say something like, that's not somebody I would generally refer. But, you can definitely go get to know them and you may have a different opinion. But if they're going to come to me, I'm not going to volunteer it. Like if I see them with somebody, I'm not going to volunteer that. If they come to me and ask, that's a different thing. And I do get questions like that a lot. So, because people know I know people. So I'll get it from men and from women. I'll get men saying, hey, do you know this woman? And this and that. So what was that?
That about you, Paula, because I mean, you're not going to go say, oh, well, didn't you share with him? And, don't you know the history there? Or, because we've all got, I mean, things just look different, or maybe they're different than they were.
Right. Exactly. The atonement is real, right? Like if somebody was rude one day, they may have just been having a really bad day, or whatever. But, if I don't know them really well, I'll even say that because I don't really know them very well. I've met them at a whatever. I think they're nice, I mean, I'll be kind of honest, but I don't like doing the gossiping thing. I don't like doing the whole, whatever. So generally, that someone's just gonna ask as an acquaintance. That's what I'll do.
Yeah,
and that has worked well. But if somebody says, hey, do you have this person's number? I'll be like, I don't do that. I don't give people your number. You have to go ask them. What were you saying, Brian?
I was just saying, especially in the church, it's a small world, especially like in the South, a lot of dating is, kind of referrals and networking really, like you meet somebody and you're like, I don't really like this person, but you know what? Tim over there or Bob over there, he would really like this girl. And then you introduce them and stuff, that happens all the time, whether in person or like virtually in a Facebook group or whatever. And so how you treat people is going to be reflected, so
Huge.
whether you're interested in somebody or not, be kind to them.
Right.
We're all in this together. All of us are single. Not everybody's trying to date, but we're all trying to make friends. We're all trying to, have fellowship and friendship. And so, treat people kindly.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you so much. Lisa, did you have something? Or am I saying that right, Lisa? Did she leave? She must have left. Okay, Kelly, you got your hand up again?
Nope, there I am. Okay. I also, we need to be careful about taking away our brothers and sisters' free agency. Oh no, she wouldn't be interested. Oh no, don't, what I'm saying? A lot of times we make decisions for them. You might think, oh, well, maybe you would like to get, meet my friend. Oh no, she probably wouldn't be interested in meeting him. Or, we just have to be real careful, the kinds of decisions.
Definitely. I agree. Thank you for that insight. All right, any other takeaways that you guys have received from conferences this year? Have any of you ever experienced where, I don't know if it's any of you have, but maybe you may know of somebody that has felt kind of insecure in going to a conference and maybe have had to go by themselves and, or not really had to, but maybe they chose to go by themselves. Let's say that. And they're looking kind of nervous and awkward and, um, not really knowing who to talk to or whatever, and just kind of shy, maybe in a corner or whatever. Anybody have experienced anybody like that? Or noticed anybody like that at a conference?
I've been that person going to a conference before, but I'm maybe never in a corner. But you know what I mean? Like I just go in and deal with the awkwardness because I know that I'm going to make friends wherever I go. And so you just kind of have to deal with it. But I'm never the type of person that's going to walk in and just hang out on the wall somewhere. But I think for me is going in with the idea of, hey, there are X number of people here. I can at least have one friend when I leave. And I think that having that mindset has been very good for me. I've been 4.5, 5-ish years in the program now.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my best friends have come from the people that I've met at conferences.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then I got crazy lucky and, found my guy 5 years in.
Yeah.
He went to one. Took me 5 years of it, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, but
Yeah.
it was good though. It developed me into a better person, a person that was more confident, a person that was more well-rounded. And I think that sometimes we get really caught up in the negative effects of being single. And I think we have to change our mindset a little bit. Right now, we're all growing. We're all in a stage where we are learning to rebuild ourselves from our previous relationships. And the longer we're in the singles program and support one another, the better we're going to be. I mean, I've learned so much and changed so much since I've been on just this outlet that, it's literally softened my heart and changed who I am. So if we can have that happen when we go to the actual conferences where we're being educated by church leaders that are talking to us, trying to give us ideas or ways that we can become better, and we take that information and use it in our lives, it's just going to make us better people. We can just be better as people, and that gets us ready for whomever is in our path for whenever.
Amen. 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 Yeah. That insecurity, that awkwardness, that whatever, especially if it's your first time and maybe you're newly divorced or newly widowed or just come in from young single adult to single adult or whatever the case may be. Maybe just moved to a new area. It is so common. And I will tell you that probably 7 or 8 out of 10 people there are feeling the same thing you are. And it's okay. None of us are perfect. None of us are going to be, having this wonderful bed of roses story. We all come in with a story. We all come in with a past of some kind, whatever that story is. And some of them are pretty interesting. And so it's really cool to be able to come up to somebody and say, hey, what's your story? Maybe not want to be that forward. Some people may not want to share all their story right up front when they first meet you. But it's a great way just to be able to go in and show up to be there and make the most of it, like Jennifer was saying. Just go in and you can do the forward approach, that we've talked about before, the family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. That's a great way to go in and talk to people. Hey, so where are you from? What ward are you in? And how many kids you have and whatever, what do you do and what do you do for fun? And, all those kind of lovely questions just to get to know somebody. Hey, Kelly, I got to see you again. Got your hand raised?
Can I make a comment? You had said something about going in and being nervous when you're brand new to it all.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in it for years and never feel comfortable. It may never be your thing to walk in and feel comfortable when you get there. But I think it's pushing yourself past that initial, wow, this is crazy awkward, I feel insecure about XYZ of myself, and just putting, like we've talked about, that negative reel aside for a few minutes and allowing ourselves to have a little bit of fun. Sometimes it just never goes away.
Right. No, that's totally true. Totally true. Yep. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I'll say like the first dance I went to, I was really nervous because I'm an introvert, and like when I used to go to dances in youth, I was the person that stood on the wall and ate snacks and talked to my friends and like maybe danced with one or two girls, you know.
Yeah.
And so I remember what that was like. But and my first time, thankfully, my roommate, you know, has been in the singles program for a while, and so like I went with him, and he was able to introduce me to some people. But you know, if you don't know anyone, it can be very intimidating, you know. And
Right.
so, you know, when I see somebody new, I try to at least, you know, go over and just say hi, and you know, maybe something like, hey, I'm going to grab some food. You know, we've got lots of snacks over here. Or, you know, if they're sitting at the table and I'm sitting there with some friends, you know, direct a question their way, or like, you know, include them in the conversation somehow, just so it's a little less awkward, because it can be really awkward if you're new and it's like everybody else seems to know all the other people and you're just like there by your lonesome. Um, so trying to include people, I think, is a big thing, you know, even if
Definitely.
it's just something little, you know, just
Yeah.
acknowledging that they're there, and you know, they
Yeah,
exist. It can be all
definitely.
it takes to get them to feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah, totally. All right, Kelly.
I was just gonna say I tend to pick up strays, and I think I met like 5 friends in Nauvoo that were all just wallflowers.
Okay.
And one guy, we were doing things Saturday in Nauvoo, and I said, "Hey, do you want to go? We're going to go look around Old Nauvoo." We were in one of the stores in the uptown in the big city. You know, we went down to the old part. But anyway, he met us down there, and he hadn't. This was on Saturday, and he hadn't done anything really with anybody because he was so introverted and so shy and didn't really want to talk
Okay.
to anybody. There was a man. Well, the first night we were there, Thursday night, we got a ride down to the barn with one guy, and then he wound up being our friend the whole weekend. Then we got a ride back from the barn up to the stake center, and he wound up being our friend all weekend. And you know, so and just as once you introduce yourself to somebody, just make a point to say hi every time you see them. Hey, how are you doing? You're having a good time. You know, I mean, you don't have to be a great conversationalist. Say, how are you doing? Are you having a good time? Are you having fun? You know, I mean, and I know, I mean, I probably seem like I'm just the obnoxious in your face person all the time, but I have to push myself out of a comfort zone to get there too. So, and maybe I don't know what it's like at all to be some of the people who don't want to even speak, but I have been very uncomfortable being the first person to speak a lot of times, but I never regret it. I'm always glad I did it. And I
Okay.
also have tried really hard. I mean, you know, to make sure that I don't get offended by anything. So,
Good. That's
um,
awesome. That's great.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
thought you might think I was.
Thank you, Kelly.
And another thing, we can also include people not necessarily at conferences, but like in other ways.
Yeah.
For example, I was up at a cabin up in the mountains with several other singles that I had met at conferences, actually, and one of them had been messaging with this guy on Mutual, and you know, wasn't really interested in him in a romantic way, but was like, hey, you know, we're all meeting up at this cabin. You want to come hang out with us? And so he met us there last night, and we all got to know him. And now we have another friend, and he knows, you know, people because he just moved. He's in Charlotte, and he just moved to that area a few months ago. And so now he's got some friends in the singles program, and
Awesome.
you know, we're able to add him to Facebook groups and stuff like that. So now he'll be able to start coming to activities and stuff. So, you know, it doesn't have to even be like at a conference. It can just be, you know, anyway, just including people as much as we can. You know?
Brian, that's awesome. That is so cool. I'm so glad you guys did that. Yeah, sometimes you can do different events like a camping trip or like a whatever that you just get together with friends to do. It always, you know, I tell people all the time, you don't have to have a calling to be able to, you know, have people over or to plan an event with a few friends, you know. You can definitely do that and include other people. So I love that you're doing that. All right. There's Lisa, is that Coots Couch? I'm probably butchering the name. I'm sorry. Did you have something you wanted to share with us? I don't know if you even have your audio. Or Pat, looks like you're unmuted.
Yes. You know, you've talked about the whole wide range, the whole gamut of things. I did a couple of localized things very early in the year, December, January, but I'd never done a conference. So I went to South Carolina knowing one person, one single person. And, you know, I came away from there with an incredible experience. And that has done nothing but multiply with the Atlanta conference and most recently the Nauvoo conference.
Awesome.
I think that I've probably got about 80 new Facebook people since the first one.
Yeah.
I had a young man, he's 45, I think. He reached out to me the other day on Facebook Messenger and said, "Hey, I'm from Minnesota. I see you're from Wisconsin. Can we be friends?" I'm like, "Sure, you know, whatever." So we messaged back and forth a little bit.
Awesome.
And he was in that place where I was.
Okay.
Or maybe not even where I was, but where many of us have been. I said, you know, hey, we got activities up in the Twin Cities, you know, yada, yada, yada. You should come. He says, oh, I'm supposed to go, but I'm nervous, I'm scared, and I don't know anybody. I said, I'll let you in on a little secret. There are those groups of clicky type people longtime people that know each other. But I said probably 80% of the singles are in the exact same boat you are. They're unsure. They're unsure. They don't know anybody, and they're timid. I said, don't be timid. There's no reason to be.
Right.
You know, reach out, talk to people. And so I'm looking at dragging him to something at some point yet this year. What it'll be, I don't know. But so it's been a wild ride for me to go from being unknown in the singles circle to being pretty well known.
Yeah, everybody knows Pat.
Awesome. I have to tell you, we just had an event last night. An event last night that was on a private level, and I met somebody new who I hadn't met before, and she says, "I know you." I said, "How do you know me?" She says, "I've heard about you." I was like, "What?"
Referrals, Pat, go a long way, right?
It was. She didn't tell me whether it was good or bad, but at the end of the day, she says, "Yeah, you're all those things that I've heard." I was like, "Is that good or bad?" She says, "Oh, it's really good." I was like, "Cool." So you put it out there, and people notice. People tend to take notice, and it's been really an interesting journey.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Thanks for sharing that. All right, and then we have Wanda. Did you want to share something?
Well, I just wanted to check in and say hello, all.
Hello.
I've kind of been out of the mix lately because I've been so busy. I've got involved kind of in politics and running around with my political friends. So I've just not had time to come to the events, but I enjoy them. My situation is I started coming to the events because I wanted to make friends who were like me. I realized pretty soon I couldn't socialize with couples anymore after my husband passed away, but it's meeting someone. So I haven't been too pressured to try to find anyone else.
Right.
I just go to the events for fun.
Well, cool.
And to be supportive and kind of reach out for the underdog. And I have a couple of friends that I really, I guess I got close to because I kind of felt like they were socially awkward, and I was kind of, their friend and all that. But the last conference I attended was in Franklin, and I always go to the Franklin ones because I love the good entertainment that they have. It was so excellent this year in August. Well, it's always on Labor Day weekend. We had, of course, we always have 2 dances and 2 dinners at the same night. But we had the first speaker, by the way, and he was just great.
Yeah.
And we had that evening, we had Sid Sandstrom too, who's been over seminary forever in the church, and he was wonderful. He was proving how the Book of Mormon tied in the New Old Testament, all those scriptures and everything, and he was fabulous. And then we had Jason Deere with the National Tribute Band, and he kind of does fireside. Are y'all familiar with him? He kind of does firesides and gives his testimony. And the Truman Brothers are kind of the comic to relief.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. And one of the boys said going to other ship. I forget which one it was, Maine in Utah. After that, but and then we had, of course, we had that, and then of course I'm a big Nathan fan, and he Sunday moved out of the Brentwood area. A lot of these people are there to do recording and stuff, and the Nashville area is big for that. And I was lived in Nashville for 12 and a half years and worked there, so it's like home. But Nathan came and spoke and gave his testimony on Sunday morning for church. That was our church meeting. So
cool.
I went for the entertainment, and also I had free housing with our young single adult rep. Not young, but adult rep. She's her son has this beautiful home in Noahsville that they opened up to us. It's like a $750,000 home, and man, it was fabulous.
Awesome.
So you can get free housing, in a place that charges $390 for a simple, the cheapest marriage.
Right.
I took advantage of that. So that was fun.
Definitely.
I have this call-in where I have to play the music, and we're getting ready for a big program, and I like to come at night because I go to the temple and then I go to church and it was the war.
Okay.
Which I know.
Yeah.
I'm tied down now. It's hard to get us up. So anyway, I'm going to in December.
Okay.
Once our program's over, I will start coming. But
awesome.
Anyway.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Rhonda. Thank you so much. All right. And then, Alicia, are you with me now?
I'm with you, but I'm not able to talk at this minute.
Oh, okay. No problem. Kelly?
I was just going to say something else. I remember Christy Kane in her talk, she said that when she got a divorce, that nobody wanted anything to do with her. Nobody talked to her or whatever. And a year later, the sister got a divorce, and there were all these sisters around her and, taking care of her and helping her. And she had to step back and ask what the difference was. And the difference was she would leave. And I've been there, done that. As soon as church is over, you leave because you don't think you have anything to talk to. You don't have anything in common with anybody. I think that just in reflection the last little bit, I thought I probably made myself feel like an outcast in the church. I know that as singles, most of us feel like we don't belong in the church, but how much of that do we do to ourselves? So that was something
that's a great example. Yeah. My mom was a single mom from the time I was 17 or 18 years old until she passed away when she was 61. And so a good, what would that put her? A good 20 years she was single before she passed away. And she would tell me, she was like, Paula, nobody talks to me at church. And I said, Mom, what time do you get there? She goes, well, I'm usually late for sacrament meeting. I'm like, well, do you talk to anybody at church? She goes, no, I usually leave during the closing hymn because, then I can get out faster. And I'm like, you're not giving people an opportunity to talk to you. You know, you're getting there late and you're leaving early. Hello. Who's going to get up in the middle of the sacrament and go, well, Sister Maynard, how are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, woman, give people a chance. So, you know, I don't, and I'm sure none of you are doing that. But still, it's one of those things where do you just go to church and sit down? And then when church is over, do you just leave? Do you take the time to reach out to anybody? I know one of the big things I do is I feed the missionaries. And I know the missionaries aren't a permanent part of our ward, but they have connections. And then another thing that I like to do is moms that are struggling with babies, I like to offer help. Now, that is generally taken more from a woman than from a man. So I get that. I totally do. But still, though, you can go up to people after sacrament meeting or after church or whatever and just talk to them. Ask them questions. Get to know your ministering people. Most of us are assigned ministering people. Go minister. Get to know those people. Get to know the people that are coming to minister you. If they're not coming to minister you, go to your bishop or your say president, elders quorum president, whatever. Say, hey, I need somebody to come minister to me. You know, I need a ministering angel. Send them my way, and then you know, see what happens there. But either way, just reach out to people. There are ways for you to do that. If you feel so inclined, go to your ward clerk and ask for the single adult list. You know, it'd make my heart good for you to do this. And start calling people that you may know or that sound familiar. Go to the legislative president, go to the elders quorum president, whatever, and say, hey, who on here is active? Because of your 100 and whatever people on that list, because trust me, there'll be close to 100 in every ward, about 20 of those are going to be active or semi-active. So reach out to those and form a little group of friends and do home evening group or game night or something together. And that will be awesome too. So then that way you can all go to conferences together and do a lot of takeaways. Other takeaways that I've had from conferences through the years have been a lot of inspired stories or inspired challenges that I've had. I remember going to Florida where they didn't know a lot of people, or I didn't know a lot of people, and attending a class called Flirting 101. And people that know me way back when know I wasn't very good at flirting. I don't know that I'm really awesome at it now, but I really needed some help. And so that class really helped me in being able to learn more how to flirt, how to interact with people in, you know, kind of a more of a playful way. Brian just put in the chat box that today he got his ward list and had 107 people in his ward, and he's in South Carolina. So that's kind of cool. Way to go, Brian. Keep me posted on that one. Definitely get people together. I mean, reach out to them. You're not the only one. I all the time will hear, well, I'm the only person, only single adult in my ward. No, you are not. If you're in a ward, you've got at least 80, probably over 100. Very few wards have less than 80. If you're in a branch, you're probably 30 to 50. We are a third of the adult population. So if you look at all the adults in the room, there's a lot of less active people. A third of the adult population in the church. And that is single adult, not young single adult. That is people that feel a little lost, that feel a little out of place. If they're not coming to church, that's most of the time what they're feeling. I had someone today say that it just feels weird for them to go to sacrament meeting by themselves. So reach out to those people. There are people, those of us that have kids to sit with or somebody to sit with in sacrament meeting, that helps a lot. But there's many people that don't. And so, you know, it really would help to have somebody to sit with. And sometimes people avoid sacrament meeting just for that reason, because they don't have anybody to sit with. And they don't want to feel awkward or feel the Lone Ranger out there. So my challenge to you, I know I've kind of been all over the place. Sorry I didn't take my stuff for ADD today. But as single adults, just know that you have a place with us as single adults in the group. We want you to, we need you to be a part of our group. Show up and bless us with your presence. And then if you feel so inclined, reach out to those that are in your ward or your branch to be able to do that. You go to conferences, go to single adult events. You will get out of it what you put into it. So if anybody walks away and says, I didn't get anything out of that, I'll ask them, what did you put into it? Because you're going to get out of it what you put into it. That ROI, return on your investment. You're going to get it. You know, if you don't invest anything in, if you don't put anything in, you won't get anything out of it. That's just kind of the law of attraction, and it's just what goes around comes around kind of thing. Any other comments or any other takeaways before we leave for tonight?
Hey, I just had a really good workshop at the Washington, D.C. Mid-Singles
Awesome.
Conference. So it was about receiving personal revelation. And obviously I can't, teach a lesson on here or whatever, but I'm going to share a couple quotes just to let people know that, there's some really good spiritual instruction that goes on at some of the conferences. And
yes,
so
definitely.
maybe you're not looking to date or whatever, and maybe you're even a little standoffish and are afraid of making friends, but you want to be spiritually nourished. Conferences are a good place to go for that too. One of the quotes that I really liked, he said, "The burning bushes, the smoking mountains, the sheets of four-footed beasts, the chimeras, and the Kirtlands were realities, but they were exceptions. The great volume of revelation came to Moses and to Joseph and comes to today's prophets in less spectacular way, that of deep impressions, without spectacle or glamour or dramatic events. Always expecting the spectacular, many will miss entirely the constant flow of revealed communication." I really liked that because, a lot of times when we are really seeking answers, we're kind of looking for that, big thing that's, flashing neon sign to say, this is what you're supposed to do. But often it comes in very small things and gradually, and then he talked about different things that you can do to become a person of constant revelation. And one of the ones that I really liked was he talked about gratitude. And he quoted President Nelson and said, "To be sure, there may be times when you feel as though the heavens are closed. But I promise that as you continue to be obedient, expressing gratitude for every blessing the Lord gives you, and as you patiently honor the Lord's timetable, you will be given the knowledge and understanding you seek. Every blessing the Lord has for you, even miracles will follow." That is what personal revelation will do for you. So I thought that was a really cool quote. But I just wanted to share those because, there is a lot of good spiritual nourishment at conferences as well, from, the keynote speakers and the workshops and things like that. So, and I will also say some of the most spiritual sacrament meetings that I have been to are the testimony meetings at conferences. People are often touched by the Spirit during those conferences and have some really emotional experiences to share. And I know the Spirit is there, really strongly when we have those. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yes, definitely. Those workshops and those speakers, a lot of time and preparation are put into those, the topics, and then the speakers, I know, put a lot of prep time into that. That is so awesome. I really do appreciate you sharing that. I actually took notes on those two quotes, so if I don't find them, maybe I'll have you just send them to me because I really like those. Thanks so much for sharing that and sharing your insights tonight. You guys are all just so awesome to be able to do this, and I appreciate you sharing your Sunday evening with me. I will see you next week. So we're going to kick off November next week with more gratitude, among a couple of other topics as well. But I will see you next week, okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.